Hello, everyone. We are back here at the Azure Task channel with our MVP, Nuno do Carmo. Welcome, Nuno.
Hi, Jorge. Nice to be back. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. It's great to have you back here at the channel. And we're going to talk today about Windows containers. There's some blog posts, some tweets happening last week from Taylor Brown, for other people
Yeah.
from the team, Windows,
Yeah.
Vinicius Apolinario, our advocate as well for Windows containers. Talk about Windows 7 annual channel for containers. That's going to bring new portability for Windows containers. And then I invite Nuno to come back to the channel and do like a 101 session about what's Windows containers and why we should care about that. And in some stage, we're going to talk about this new portability and why it's so important, something that have been discussed for a few years, and now it's coming very soon. Nuno, how are yours? If you want to share your screen, I love your
Yep.
background there.
Always. And here we go, my friends. Okay. You can see my screen.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So, yeah. So, I would like to showcase actually what are the capabilities today of Docker on Windows. So, I will be specifically speaking about the Docker engine on Windows, the Moby project, not the Mirantis project, which is a split portion. So this is free. You can get it. So first, before we start, here is my Windows version. You can see on the docs from Microsoft that we can install Docker CE Community Edition, the Mirantis container runtime, which will tell you actually to contact Mirantis, and then we
Can
could
you
have.
zoom in a little bit?
Oh yeah,
A
of
little bit
course.
of the
Sorry.
zoom?
Yeah,
Would be
yeah.
better for, yeah.
Okay, so the container D, the Mirantis, and Docker CE. But I will stay here on Docker this time around. And so what I did before the show, it was of course to prepare my environment, and it's quite simple. You just run this PowerShell command here. It will install Docker Community Edition. So if I do a Docker info, here you can see that I'm running the 2405 as a client. And if I do Docker version also, we can see it here also at the server version, but just to showcase some versions, here we go. So this is the client, Windows AMD. I'm using a default context, so that's normal stuff. And then the server is Docker Engine Community Edition, again, 2405. And then you can see here, that's the most important part here, it's Windows. So right off the bat, if I do something like, so you can see the comments that I've been.
Zooming a little bit?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, you're
Thank
totally
you.
right. My bad.
Yeah.
So here, if I try to run Alpine, for example, it will tell me like, okay, I cannot find, but there's no manifest for Windows AMD. So I'm really running Docker Engine for, let me actually put this like that. All right. So Docker for Windows, we can use it. We have, I previously took some images already. So I will just show you here. I took the server core. So first of all, the images for Windows containers, you can find them on Docker Hub. That's important. So that will be my second page here. Sorry, this one.
I'll make sure that I put the links on the description.
I will pass all the links, but here you can see that, okay, it's tiny maybe, but you can see that it's hubdocker.com. But then you will see that we have all the server core and other servers listed here. And here are the tag that we can use. And that's really important. And I will come back to these ones here. So right now, let's say that I want to run my first container. Sorry, I will just kill them all the time. MCR exactly, and not to I will take a 22. So I'm running here. Oh, and let me provide the name also like that. Okay. So here I'm running the container server core 2022, and I'm running PowerShell. Right now, we need to be at the same OS level. So we will get back to what George said just before about portability, why it's important. But right now, we need to be at the same OS level. So for Windows 11, it will be 2022. For Windows 10, I think it will be 2019 or something like this. But I'm cheating a little bit, and I will showcase why I'm saying here. So here, if I try to run it, again, like I said, I already took the image. The image right now of server core is around 1.6 giga, which is quite big, but believe me, like it's quite small compared to where it started. Really, really. So now I'm here on a container. So if that's my, I always do that. Like that's my memory, muscle memory of Linux. So if I do a get process, I can see here the processes. But now here comes the cool thing that I want to show you first. So let me zoom again. So now if I do a Docker inspect, okay, about WinPS, okay, so I will use this format because when you do a Docker inspect, it will give you like the JSON of everything. But here I specifically want the isolation. Oh, hey, I'm running already process. Okay.
Already process, okay.
Okay, so I'm under process isolation. Let's see if it's true. So now I have here PowerShell, for example, which is the session that I'm just starting. And it's under the ID 3848. Okay, fair enough. So if I try now, to check on the host now, right? I'm no more into the container, right? I'm back on my host. And I try to see a process. Look at this. I have exactly the same process ID. That is process isolation, and that is already implemented for Windows containers. Now, something good, like here, if I'm on memory, I'm using right now 4 gigabytes, okay? A Windows container should be a bit bigger, but thanks to the process isolation, let's say the difference between at rest and with a container or with multiple containers is actually almost nothing. It's like a few hundred megs. So it's big, but it's not big in Windows world. Let's say it like that. So cool. Now let's see my claims then. So I will quit now.
Before you go forward, like for some people watching that don't know the difference, we have two types of containers on Windows. Like we have the Hyper-V containers that has kind of a virtual machine, and the containers inside is this virtual machine. Is a lightweight virtual machine. And you have this process isolation where we are sharing the same kernel of your host, your machine, or could be the Windows server if you're running on Windows server. On Windows 11, that's what Nuno just showed. That means that if I go on my host, I can see the process I can see all the process running inside the containers because it was in process isolation. And that's something that wasn't like available, or it is available, but not like on AKS on Kubernetes at the moment, and something that's coming. And yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let's again, like I put the task manager always on top right now. So here we are at 4.3 giga. So let me run again the container, and here you can see it went up by 100, 200, 300, between 200 and 300 megabytes, okay, of memory added because of the container. And once I exit it, which is quite cool, is that we gain like automatically like the RAM. So the RAM is giving back right away. Okay. So now, George, thank you, because you just spoiled my next one.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all good. I like that we are on the same level. So, like George said, we have like dual capabilities here about the Docker containers or the Windows containers. Here, I'm using now the isolation Hyper-V. And now see the RAM, okay? So we went up with process isolation, we went up by 300, okay? So now when I will run this one, you'll see that the RAM should go up way more, exactly. Like we are at like 5, 4, 600, okay? We are running a real micro VM, which is actually hosting my container here. So now let's do again the same exercise. So just to be sure. So I'm pressing tab on PowerShell just to show that PowerShell is running. Here again, we have everything, but now see the number, which is way lower. Okay. Let's go back again. So first, I will keep the just for comparison purpose here. So let me go first to the isolation, Hyper-V, okay? So before we were process when I didn't do anything, and now I selected Hyper-V. And now when I will do this, there's none, because the process is not shared between the container and the host, okay? So it's a full isolation. And that's what I always like to say, which is funny, is that Windows containers started with Hyper-V isolation, by the way. So we got process isolation since maybe 2-3 years only, right? On the other side, Linux containers started with process isolation, and then they got some runtimes like the Kata containers, gvisor from Google, that are actually creating this isolation that is more near what actually Windows was already doing. So both sides are trying now, learning from each other, kind of, but it was like how to get the same level of integration. Now that's really important. Process works because my host and my container are at the same OS level. Okay. So we saw now the Hyper-V. So let me exit it here. And now let me then show you what happens when instead of 2022 with process isolation. So I'm not choosing the Hyper-V at all. Okay. And you can see the VM got killed right away, right? So what is really good, and we have to give props when it's done also right? So everyone is like, yeah, Windows containers are big and everything. Yes, that's true. But the whole process behind works quite well. And as you can see, like we gain the memory right away. So it's something that works. It's not like it don't stay longer and then you have to kill other processes or whatnot. No, Windows containers evolved to actually that aspect here. It seems like, oh, it's normal. Yes, it's normal, but it's implemented. So it's normal. All right. So now let's do the same with 2019. And again, run a PowerShell here. And this time, here it comes. We have a failure in Windows system call. The operating system does not match the host system. That's true. And that's where portability will just be amazing in the future. So I don't know if there will be a cut off, like from this version on, now we have portability, or if there will be maybe some kind of like taking back to 2019 or not. I don't know. Okay, maybe George know. Maybe George you can't even maybe speak about it. I don't know, but like we don't know yet exactly what portability entitles at the end of the day. Still,
Yep.
we are in a powerful configuration. So remember that we have two modes. So now I'm pressing Control L to remove everything. So if people want to learn some tricks on the keyboard. So now I will keep the 2019, but this time I will say, okay, I cannot run it as a process. I get it. So now can you still at least add it on 2019, but on an Hyper-V? And see the RAM going up, and here is the black screen, and then it will start again. Now it's the right time. Yeah, no, thank you.
I think there is one difference here. If someone watch a video here from the channel, used to be the default used to be Hyper-V on Windows 11, and processor you used to have to do isolation process if you want to run as a process. And now they moved to process to be the default, and Hyper-V is the exception. That means
the
that
back end,
yeah. I think this helps a lot for the process to be the default if you want to use like Docker Compose or something like that, because you don't have to, to set the isolation flag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So exactly, like you do have some configurations. You can set some stuff. Like I'm not using Compose. I'm really just showcasing like what are the capabilities that you can actually build on, right, for today.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can run some 2019 here. That's quite cool. Let me just, okay. So let me exit here again.
And no, that's not going to change with the portability, the NO channel that's for container that's coming. Means that Hyper-V is still there. If you need that isolation, extra level of security, you still can run as Hyper-V, but to save resource, process isolation for many workloads should be good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. And again, it's like we are getting nearer the how do they call it? Like the same level between Linux containers and Windows containers. So the goal is to reach that. There's a term, but again, it's morning for me. But okay, they are reaching that level. Okay, they are trying to reach the same level as the capabilities of Linux containers on Windows containers, and portability.
They'll be comparable, yeah.
Exactly, and the portability feature is one that is maybe one of the last. I don't say it's the last, but is one of the last major, at least, capabilities that was missing on Windows containers compared to Linux containers. Which brings me now to a small sidetrack. So here, what we are seeing is like Docker is running Docker Windows containers, okay? And thanks to the Hyper-V, we can come back to some others. But okay, so at the very beginning, I showed you Alpine, maybe didn't like it. So maybe with Hyper-V, okay, maybe it will be better. So let's try it. And here, again, it's not possible because before it does that, Hyper-V is the isolation, cool, but you have a first gate that states like I'm an OS AMD and I'm on OS Windows, AMD Windows, and what I recognize is Windows images. All right. What if we could actually run it because we have, again, the technology on Windows to do so, and that's where I'm mostly the most known for, I guess, which is WSL. That's where WSL can help. So now we have WSL, but we didn't install anything yet, okay? So we have WSL. We know that we can install on WSL Docker Engine also. Cool. But then it could be just a backend. So that's what Docker Desktop is doing at the end of the day, or Rancher Desktop, or even Podman. They are using WSL as the backend technology, but the goal for you is not to really know Linux or whatever. It's more like, can I run workloads on top of Docker? But I don't really care that is running on WSL. I just want my WSL, my Docker engine in WSL, and that's it. Well, we can. With some few setups, I will explain them, okay? What you can do is, here is the end, and I will explain, I will go back, okay? So if I do, a context, and I'm trying to run Alpine now, okay? I'm quite sure it will fail for one reason, but I will explain. But let's try it. Here, I'm running on a specific context, okay? Now, it's failing for one specific reason, is because if I go check, my WSL should be stopped, okay? And that's just the problem. So let's wake up our WSL here. Anyway, I will have to showcase, but I just want to show you sometimes like the learning has to go through some errors, right? So let's, okay, I'm on Tumbleweed, but you can pick Ubuntu, you can pick whatever you like. It's okay. So now let's try again the same. Again, Docker. I pass a context, I will explain that. And then I'll try to run Alpine. Hey, Alpine is running now.
Right.
So I can check, okay, so sorry, I will do cat etc, the OS release, it's Alpine Linux, okay, so if I do an APK update, I'm running Alpine. It works fine.
Nice.
Okay, so now let's see, okay, if I exit, let's
I remember,
see what...
Nuno, that a few, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we could run that without this context.
Yeah,
I think was open. And what changed now? Why need the context? I think that's the question.
exactly. So contexts is maybe one of the commands from Docker. And when I say Docker, I don't speak about Docker Desktop. Docker Desktop is built on top of Docker, like the engine, the tooling also, like Docker Client, the Docker Compose, Docker Build, and so on, right? So if you strip away Docker Desktop, it showcases how much Docker Desktop, Rancher Desktop, Podman, whomever, right? They are integrating for us as user, as devs sometimes, right? How much it is important their work, because they just bundle it very nicely for us and it just works. So when you want to build it by yourself, that's when suddenly you need to understand a little bit more the commands, okay? So Docker contexts, like George said, it's a new, not that new, but that's a new command, and that's a command that people don't really use it so much, unfortunately. Maybe the developers do it because they have like their dev test, not prod, but potentially they have their dev test and they can just build something on dev, try it on test, and then pass on the ball to the production team, right? But here, what I did is like I created a Moby WSL context, okay? And the Docker endpoint, something that people don't use it, but that for me, that was crazy good when it came out, and that's some years now. At the very beginning, Docker could have like unsecure connection, TCP unsecure, right? Like think HTTP. And they add the TLS, so the secured connection. And to do that, you had the need for certificates, you had the need to be on both parts, like keys, whatnot, right? So it was quite secure already. Not quite, it was secure, but the implementation of the security came at a cost. Now, Linux and Windows, right, they do have already something that is way secure, okay, not more, but that's as secure as TLS, which is SSH. So Docker implemented some years ago the SSH connectivity. So now I'm cheating a little bit. Now you have to just, let's take a small step back and try to understand. I'm connecting SSH to localhost. Okay, first thing first, let's just try to SSH localhost. Okay. All right, I'm connected potentially to my tumbleweed connection. Let me see the IP. The IP will be this one here on the contain or the SSH connectivity where I connected. So let's see again. All right, let me paste it. Okay, sorry, let me do this. Like I will copy it and I will paste it. So 116, that's exactly the same. Okay, cool. Now I do have connectivity between the two. Why? Because my WSL, now that's the setup that we need to perform. I installed WSL, I installed a distribution, I enabled SSH, sorry.
SSH7.
Yeah, exactly. So here, if I look at the SSHD like daemon, right? I do have it running, okay? And I'm listening on all ports actually, 22. Cool. So now thanks to WSL, the port 22 on all ports means also the port 22 here on my host. So let me just exit it. So here on my host, I do have my port 22 also open. Let's see if I remember AN and then select string 22. Yes. Okay. I'm listening on localhost port 22 for all the interfaces. Okay. I'm listening to it and it will connect me here, which will connect me here. Cool. So thanks to SSH, now what I did in addition, of course, was to install Docker. So this one, we don't need it anymore. So I installed Docker following the documentation from Docker, quite simple. And it went quite simple to follow the docs. If you're learning Linux, might be a little bit like some, not that simple. That's important that simple is not used as that, but like it's simple to follow the docs. The docs are really well written. So now I have Docker, I have my SSH connectivity. Therefore, I could do my context. So I created my context based on the SSH connectivity and then to localhost, okay? And now I can use the -- context that you saw before when I did the Alpine, okay? So Docker -- context, and you can see this name here is the name here, all right? And then I could run Alpine. Cool. So now, whenever I want, I can, let me do it something like this, -d and then nginx, okay? So I'm running a daemon of nginx. Hopefully it will be quite fast enough. The sizes are definitely not the same, right? So that's always a good thing. So if I do a docker context ps, my container is running, and then, sorry, I will just mcr, and then I can run as a process my WinPS, right, at the same time. So now I'm running two workloads, mixed workloads, hybrid workloads, name it the way you want, but you can run already today all that. You just need to ensure that your system has the default, the prerequisites that it needs, and then you can run all that already today. So now imagine when portability will come, you will have even more possibilities to run something on a Windows machine. That's why Windows, sometimes people say like, okay, Windows might be the best dev environment, the best container environment. It's true, but you have to understand why, because it can run actually multiple and different loads from different OSs. That's why WSL, the technology, the container runtime, the virtualization platform on Windows are so important. They are getting all together, and now you can mix them here and there.
Yeah, that's what we call Linux containers on Windows. But that's a little bit different. The way that you show is like the Docker CLI, the command line, is pointing to like a Docker daemon that's running inside WSL using context. Yeah, that's one way. But there is also the Windows, the Linux containers on Windows. That's kind of is different, a little bit different. But Azure Container Instance is using that. Like that's a way that Azure Container Instance is bringing, because on Azure Container Instance you can run Windows and Linux containers, and that's exactly how, like you said, is all hosted on Windows, but we can run your Linux workload on Windows.
Yes, indeed. I know that I cannot showcase it today.
I cannot as well.
I will work with you to do though. But yes, so just one very important portion here. LCAL, Linux Containers on Windows, is something that was created back in 2017, 2018, okay, between Docker and Windows. It got some momentum, but suddenly it, let's say, I don't know, a hard stop on both sides, one of the side, I don't care. But it let's say, it didn't continue to be developed as is. That's important now. WSL came from the technology that LCAL was used, actually. The idea of using micro VMs to run Linux user space and actually full container, like full kernel time also, was from LCAL. Okay, so that's WSL2 as we know it today. Now, and I'm following like the projects, not Docker here, now that's important, but the portion of Containerd and how it integrates with Windows. You have several small components called the host computing something. Okay, so HCS shim, SCS runc, I think, or something like that. I don't remember, but so these ones are the ones doing really the hard work behind the scenes. And I know, because I'm seeing that, is that what is used in Azure. So it's open source. It's not really documented, but it's open source. You can see the code actually. So HCS shim, okay, the shim that actually gets the container request and then tells like, okay, this is Windows, this is Linux, as the Linux already in it. So you have a portion that you could actually configure somehow in your machine directly. But again, that's some configuration, but that will be a really, really nice show. So I know we are almost on time. Let me just do a last thing, show a last tool that people don't use it too much, and sure. I will show you. So like I said, let me just run an Hyper-V now for fun. Oops, sorry. I talked too much, so I forgot the isolation. All right, so I will start a container Hyper-V. Again, we will see like the memory going up. Remember that the memory is also up now due to WSL, okay? Before we were around 4, now we are already around 6 with an Hyper-V container and WSL running in the backend, okay? Yep. So now there's one tool, HCS Diag, okay, that will provide us with actually diagnostic tools. That's important, okay? And these diagnostic tools will tell us actually, okay, I have templates. so I don't care. They are created, they are here waiting. But now I do have my WSL here. So WSL is a micro VM on top of the virtualization platform. And now look at this. I also have my Hyper-V container, and I can tell that it's running on top of Docker. Okay, so this one is on top of WSL or running WSL, and this one Docker. So here, okay, I will do something funny. Is like, let me crash it. Actually, as you can tell, I already did that in the past. So I will crash the ID here, okay? And I will try to come here quite fast, okay? So let me send a crash, and here we go. It crashed the container. So if I do a docker ps-a, I don't have anything, all right? So this tool, HCSdiag, allows us, okay, not to, like, it allows us, it's a diagnostic tool. That's, first of all, that's the first thing that we need to keep in mind, okay? But we can force crash the virtual machine. We can get some properties. For example, we can mount some VHD, but that's on specific case, okay? And this one, okay, I'm not sure if I have HVC. No,
the
I
nice
don't have.
thing there, Nuno, is that they could see the WSL from your host.
Yes. But be careful. What it shows is actually my WSL micro VM. It doesn't. I cannot connect. For example, I think HCSdiag has a shell capability.
It's not the container running there.
Yeah,
it's just your WSL.
Exactly. So here, if I do HCSdiag console VM, and then I will take my WSL ID here. Okay.
Okay, that proves that WSL is a container.
Yes. It's a VM, a micro VM, right? It's a micro VM, yeah. And when I run the container as a Hyper-V isolation, I see my micro VM here, right? So now let me close it here, and let me bring back this one here. As you can see, my memory went back. And now to clean everything up, if I do a shutdown of my WSL, again, bam, we are back again to 4.3. And finally, if I do my HCSdiag list, I don't see WSL anymore neither. And you have a clean environment back to stock, let's say. Last but not least, and we will end it with this for me, if I do a Win version. So before I do that, you can tell that I was running Docker here. I was running the Windows terminal. I do have Wingets, but all this time, if you are like looking at it, I have administrator here because all the demo was on Windows Server 2022 and not Windows 11, even though it looks like. So that's the surprise, let's say. So everything that I showcased today, I took here, I took the insider version, but Windows Server 2022 desktop environment can be not a dev environment, that's important, but could be a very powerful jump server, for example, where you need some tooling here and there for your production. And you could, in the future, already all that I showed here. Hopefully, if Microsoft, more than you, if other Microsofties see that, be amazed for the work you do. Please don't restrict me. I like my environment here. But no, but it's something that we can already do with that.
Yeah, and the portability that we talked about at the beginning, that's exactly what you show here. Imagine now that, today, if you have Windows containers, for example, Azure Kubernetes servers, when there is a new version of Windows Server release, you have to rebuild your image. Because there is no portability. Means that you cannot run like an old version of Windows in a new version. You cannot run, 2022, 2019 on 2022. But we just announced last week that we're going to bring this long-term service version that's NO channel for containers, that you're going to be able to, once you have a new version, keep running your old versions. We don't know if you're going back to 2019, probably not, probably from to 2022 onwards. But imagine that, have 2024 version, then those 2022 hosts or Windows Server hosts will be able to run 2022 versions of Windows, of containers. Means that we don't have to rebuild the container, you don't have to redeploy. And Azure Kubernetes Service will be able to update your host operating system for the latest version of Windows without breaking all your workload that's running on the cluster, on Azure Kubernetes Service. And that's why we talk portability, and it's very, very, very important.
Oh, it is. It is. And I think it's like you said, even if it's brought forward, I'm totally fine with that. I mean, at some point in time, you have to think about we need to make a cut on a certain feature. And if it's going forward, it's going forward. But it just means after 2022, maybe 2024 or something I don't know, the next server version, the capabilities on containers will be insane. My only request for the ones listening, please bring what George just said before, bring back LCOW on terms of Windows Server, to be on par kind of with Azure at some point in time. It's that will be crazy because the load will be even lower because now we don't need WSL, which pains me for something, but for production uses, for enterprise uses, WSL brings other constraints, okay? So if you can take that constraints aside and just focus on one specific piece of software or a feature, that will be crazy, crazy good. So that's my next wish. I will kind of bug Taylor maybe on that one, but yeah.
Nice, Nuno. And just remember, because you're using 2022 Server, the default isolation for Windows Server is process isolation. If you try to do the same thing on Windows 11, the default for Windows 11 is Hyper-V isolation. Okay, if you don't put -- isolation, it'll be Hyper-V on Windows 11. And that's why I would say, they changed the default. They haven't changed. It's because you're using 2022 Server in your presentation. That's nice.
I was cheating like a good Corsair that I am.
And if you like, we have a few, subscribe the channel.
Yep.
And follow us and leave your comment there. What do you want to see more about Windows Container? Makes sense that, or you need us to bring the level a little bit down and explain in more details, the foundation of Windows Containers? We can do that. Leave your comment there and also subscribe to the channel. And there are a few videos, Nuno, on the channel about Azure Container Instance where you can create a context on the Docker CLI the same way that you did for WSL, and you can create a container on Azure from the Docker command line, and also videos about Windows containers on the channel. You can just try to find out, and maybe we can come back and talk a little bit more about that another time.
Let's see next time. But before we leave, I like t-shirts, I like swag.
Sure.
So you are a very nice t-shirt, my friend. Mind sharing some news, maybe?
I think when this video come out, Nuno, I have some news. I'm getting maybe your shirt here. I'll be Docker Captain. I know that you are leaving the program, but I'll be joining the program soon, and probably when this video is out, you're going to see my name there as Docker Captain, and I'm very grateful for Docker, and I think Docker changed my career and probably yours as well, and many people watching these. We embraced the technology back in 2013, 14. I remember talk about Docker at 2015 Ignite here in Australia. And I was asking how many people knew Docker at the time, and it was like a couple of people from 100
Wow.
in November 2015. And now everybody knows about Docker. Even the latest research say that, more than 53%, I think, the developers are using Docker Desktop.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
know that a lot of people using Rancher Desktop as well, and it's amazing how container is part of the developer life now.
Well,
And all the
brought-
integration of VS Code and all the Docker extension, Kubernetes extension.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Yeah, I'm very proud and thank you for Docker. And and if you're watching
Deserve, my
these, and
friends. We need Windows representatives anyway on Docker captains. So I'm glad that you are not the next one, because Vinicius is already there, and
this is
others
the-
also that are really open to Windows containers. So I just keep pushing and do the amazing work that you do, and I'm sure you will be a great captain, my friend. Congrats.
Thank you, Scott Carlton. Thank Vinicius Apolinario for the support as well, and for the recommendation. And Graham from Docker, Evan from Docker, and a lot of people that probably going to meet soon. But hopefully, who knows? I could be going for DockerCon soon as well and meet some captains there.
Yeah, I'll cheer for you from the side for now. That's for sure.
Thank you so much, Nuno. Thank you, and thanks for coming, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you on the next video.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.